speaker, is an actor, an author, an educator. He's best known for his leading roles on the television series Taxi and Who's the Boss. And in 2009, he took on his most challenging role yet, English at Philadelphia's Northeast High School. His experience was taped and aired on A&E on the critically acclaimed 7-part documentary series called Teach. Tony Danza.
That's me. Hello. Hello. Thank you. I know it's a tough act to follow. I got to levitate. No, I don't have any of those slides. I'm in trouble. Anyway, Arthur Miller once said that the best we can hope for is that we end up with the right regrets. That's how this whole thing got started. I was dealing with a couple of my regrets. At that moment, I was also dealing with with closing in on my 60th birthday. 60, it's like over the speed limit, And I was also I had just been fired from what I thought was my dream job. I had a 1-hour live talk show in New York City, and I was so turning 60. You get very reflective. It's something about that age. When you turn 50, you start waking up with injuries. 60, you start thinking about life, about what you've done and what you haven't done and what you should have done. And and another thing became crystal clear to me at that moment, that you only get one life. And I'd always held this romantic idea of becoming a teacher. I studied to be a teacher in college, but when I finished college, I just didn't think I was ready to teach anybody anything. My classmates and my friends went on to be teachers, and I went on to be a prize fighter. I was tough Tony Danza, Brooklyn's knockout artist. My mother was out of her mind. She was so beside herself. She said, "You went to college, and now you're going to be a boxer. Great." And then she really went nuts when I told her I was thinking about driving a cab in New York City. And then I got Taxi, though, and she felt a little bit better. So it all worked out. But the teaching thing stayed with me. And for those of you who teacher. And I made the mistake of telling it to a friend of mine who was a TV producer. And the first thing he said was, "Boy, that would make a great TV show." And I thought, nah, it can't be, because it would be cross purposes. The TV show would be, would have one agenda, the ratings. And as a teacher, I would have another agenda, the kids. I also didn't think that we could sell it. But my friend said I could sell it he said he could sell it in 30 minutes. Called me back in 25 minutes, told me we had an appointment at the A&E network to discuss my new teaching show. My new teaching show. I kind of like the sound of that, And I thought, maybe if we could do it right and do it the way I wanted to do it, we could actually put a spotlight on American education, show what it's like to be a teacher, show what's really going on in an inner city high school, and maybe have a wider impact. Of course. That's how the short-lived show came to be. It was seven parts, only in 6 weeks, because they had to get rid of it quicker. They didn't even want it to be on the 7th week, but it was critically acclaimed, and it was something. But the cameras, it got canceled, and the cameras left me at the end of the first semester. And actually, up until that moment, I thought I had found a way to finally make teaching a high-paying job. I just make it a TV job, you know. But then they left, and I was back like the rest of the teachers. Actually, I was glad it was canceled because it's hard enough to be a first-year teacher. Try doing it on camera. It's really something. And that the thing I worried about, that tug of war between what was good for the show and what was good for the kids, became a constant battle that I didn't really want to fight any longer. And really the reason is because even though it was a show, I had a goal to try to be the best teacher I could be and give the kids what they deserved, because it's the only 10th grade English class they were going to get. And so I wanted to make sure that I did the best I could. And that is another seldom talked about aspect of teaching, is that, like, you're not only doing a job, but you have the kids' lives and their futures in your hands. And it's a tremendous responsibility. So I ended up at a school in Philadelphia called Northeast High. Any Vikings in the house? Ahoo, ahoo. That's what they say. Anyway, it's a school. It's a comprehensive high school, 3,500 kids, over 50 languages spoken in the school. It's really something to see. It's an incredible, giant place, a snapshot of American education. There are over 200 teachers in the school. And let's be honest, some of them were not the best. There are bad teachers, just like there's bad actors. But from what I saw, I think there were more discouraged teachers. And the statistics bear that out. You know, I don't know if you know this, but after 3 years, 30% of new teachers quit. And after 5 years, almost 50% quit. So just as they're getting good at it, they go, this is too much for me, and they throw in the towel. I went to orientation with 800 first-year teachers that were entering the Philadelphia district. And I'm telling you, you could have taken over the world with them. They were, you know, it was just kids, by the way, all young people, enthusiastic, ready to change the world and make a difference. And it's incredible to see that much enthusiasm and purpose so quickly, you know, snuffed out. The title of my book is, I'd like to apologize to every teacher I've ever had my year at Northeast High. And it's based on two things. One, that I was not the best student. I was a bad student, and I didn't respect my teachers' life's work, and I pretty much tortured them. And secondly, I got a year-long glimpse of how hard it is to teach the youth of today in a public school. Let's make a list. I love lists. I can't say lists, but I love making them. Each teacher is responsible for 150 kids, 150 students. And let me change that word, 150 teenagers. I mean, just ponder that for a second, those of you who have a teenager or two. And what's really interesting nowadays is that you have the teacher. The unmotivated student is no longer the exception. And so the teacher, in order to get the kids to work, has to show how much he cares about the kids. They don't work if you don't care about them. I mean, I've heard kids say, this teacher doesn't care about me, so he doesn't like me, so I don't do the work. And so you have to show them that you care, and so you do that. And then what happens is they feel comfortable enough to open up to you, and they tell you about their lives. And some of these kids have some very, very difficult lives, and it shakes you up. I mean, sometimes you even have to report some of the stuff that they've told you. When they've confided in you, you have to report it. And it really is an emotional grind that is hardly ever spoken about. I mean, I just wasn't really prepared. I certainly wasn't trained for the emotional part of it. I worked with a teacher early on who told me, you got to be so many more things to kids nowadays. You're not only the teacher, you're the mother, the father, the sister, the brother, the social worker, the therapist, the best friend, the nemesis. You have to be everything. And so that emotional grind, it really overwhelmed me. It was maybe the hardest part of the whole experience. On the other side of the desk, you have the kids who've been conditioned to think that it's the teacher's job to teach them. And by the way, the mantra at the Philadelphia School District, and I'm sure in most districts, is what are you going to do to engage the kids? How are you going to engage the kids? What are you going to do to engage the kids? Well, the kids hear that. And then they come in and they plop down and they say, okay, I'm here, engage me. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I fought it all year. I made the kids make a sign. I made the kids make a big sign, put it up over the blackboard in the front of the room, and we would recite it every day before we started. Take part in your own education. Because we can't want an education for the kids more than they want it for themselves. And I would try to make that point over and over again. And something else we have to admit, that our culture, our overall culture is not helpful. It sends messages that are antithetical to education. I would tell the kids, good behavior and hard work will pay off. And then they would go home and watch Jersey Shore and come back and tell me I was crazy. And I got nothing against the kids in Jersey Shore, If I was 22 and you told me, go down to the shore, act out and we'll pay you, I'd be afraid to see the footage. But it's the suits. It's us, the suits that put this on, reap billions of dollars from it, and then send their kids to private schools. We used to really try to nurture our kids. Now we just try to sell them something. There's other problems too. Let's be honest. Some parts of the minority culture are not helpful. The out-of-wedlock birth rate in this country overall is 44%. Imagine that. Every baby born in the country is born. 44% are born to a single mother. In the minority communities, it can be upwards of 70 to 75%. So you have single mothers raising kids when they're kids themselves. One of the best indicators of student achievement is the academic success of the mother in the home. So now you have homes where there's no academic success, and so therefore there's no model, and that's teacher talk. You got to model it, right? If you're a teacher, you got to model it. You got to have a graphic organizer. You got to do collaborative learning. Don't make me say Venn diagram. I was so naive. Somebody told me I needed a Venn diagram. I made a doctor's appointment. It was like really, I had a long way to go. On another front, I'm a union guy. My father was a sanitation man for the city of New York, garbage man, worked on the street I lived on and went to school on. I was always so proud of him because he used to drop me off at school with the truck. Never forget my first day of high school. He let me ride inside the truck. And anyway. And I've been a member of the Screen Actors Guild for almost 35 years. I think that if you chart the decline in wages in the country and the decline in unionism, they pretty much line up. I just don't think that companies, districts, municipalities are going to do right by workers out of the goodness of their hearts. I think that we have to be together. It's the motto of America. I say to the kids a lot of times, what's the motto of America? And they look at me blank. They can't even imagine what I'm talking about. And I say to them, it's e pluribus unum, out of many, one, that we're all in this together. And so that was my message a lot. Don't get me wrong. That's not to say that there haven't been abuses, and the unions need to have to be willing to correct those abuses and also be willing to move towards compromise while still protecting the teachers that they represent. And I think to some degree we had some of that. I mean, I think the administration's race to the top has spurred unions and districts to try to make some changes. My book came out the day the teachers went on strike in Chicago. And a lot of people asked me about it. And I said to them, it's horrible. I feel bad for the kids, feel bad for the families that are unsettled. But imagine how bad things are, that knowing full well that you're going to suffer the worst public relations disaster, you still go out on strike. That's how bad things are. Here's a few things you don't know about that district. 87% of every kid in that district is eligible for free breakfast and free lunch. These kids come to school hungry. In fact, during the strike, they were still feeding them in the school. There was no school, but they were feeding the kids. There's only enough social workers for that in that district for one or 2 days a week in the schools. I mean, the schools with the most troubled kids have a social worker there 1 or 2 days a week. There's only 200 nurses for the whole school, for all the districts. So you can get sick on Monday and Wednesday, but not on Tuesday. And so, this is the message that we send to the kids, that this is so important, and then we lay off the school nurse. I think, I'm sorry, I lost my place. I think that a teacher can be a really effective tool to combat poverty, but I just don't think it can be the only tool. So the last time I did one of these, my publisher said, less lecture and more stories from the book. So what I tried to do was I tried to teach life lessons. I tried to constantly to make the lessons relatable to the kids' lives. That's what I thought I was missing in high school. And what happened was I got us a trip to New York City. We were going to go up on the bus, see Central Park, Times Square, see a Broadway show, see West Side Story, and then finish the night at my friend Sal's restaurant, Patsy's, on 56th Street, where Frank Sinatra used to hang out. Oh, the kids were crazy. We're going to New York City. You know, a lot of these kids had never been out of Philadelphia. Oh, we're going to New York City. And then the word got out, and then we started to grow chaperones. You know, the teachers all wanted to go on the trip. It got to be like 3-1 at one point. I mean, it was crazy. But then I heard the news that the principal wanted to go. So I had to tell the kids. So I went home, and I went to the classroom, and I said, hey, kids, you know, the principal wants to go. No, not that. No, we can't have any fun. Not the principal, back and forth. I said, this is a perfect opportunity to teach you a lesson that will serve you well if you learn it. If you learn this lesson, this will serve you well for the rest of your life. It's called making the best of a bad situation. I said, because let me explain something to you. She's going. She's going, and we can handle it one of two ways. We can tell her we don't want her to go, hurt her feelings. I hear she's got a hell of a memory. Or we could write her a note and say, Miss Carroll, we wouldn't go to New York without you. And then maybe we'll have a friend in the principal's office when we need her sometime down the line. Took a while for them to see the logic in this, but eventually they went along with it. And that lesson, interestingly, kept coming up over and over all through the year, not only in the literature but in life. Let's see. Yeah, by the way, if you get to New York, check out Patsy's on 56th Street. Tell them Tony sent you. So how do we fix this? The only solution I see is that the kids have to be convinced that in spite of the legitimate and formidable obstacles they face, no matter what they are, homelessness, violence, poverty, bad parents, no parents, bad school, bad teachers, they have to take advantage of this little slice of their life. It's not like it was when I was a kid, where you could drop out of school and go get a job on an assembly line or a construction site and have that middle-class life. You know, the country would afford you that. It's not like that anymore. It's almost like we need a campaign, like a national campaign like the one we used to change the attitude of the country on smoking or drunk driving, to convince the kids, to send the message that this is really, really important. You know, I gave one detention the whole year, and it's hard to give a detention because you don't want to come down on the bad kids too hard because you might lose them. You got to walk this fine line. The good kids are mad at you. Come on already. Don't stop putting up with this. Put your foot down. I had two girls come to me one time and say, Mr. Danza, you got to grow some balls. So finally it happened. Charmaine walked in late. I told her don't be late. She walked in late, disrupted the class. I said, that's it, Charmaine. That's a detention. I didn't know that when I gave a detention, I had to be there. That's another thing. I thought, don't they just go to some detention place? What is this, you know? So she came at 7:15 in the morning. We met, and we were talking. And I said to her, Charmaine, how long do you think you're going to be in school? She went, forever. I said, no, Charmaine. I said, here's your life. This much is school. I said, this little bit here, and you have to take advantage of it because it will inform the rest of your life. And you don't want to be out here looking back like somebody else we know saying, gee, I wish I would have done better. Sort of got it. But I think we have to commit to educating our kids, all our kids, America's kids. I mean, you know, if charter schools were working, and I got nothing against charter schools, but if they were all working, there would be no discussion. It would be over. Some work, some don't. And I worry that the privatization of public school leads to a two-tier system, where you have the kids with the most motivated parents, most motivated kids, most motivated parents, and guardians in one school, and the rest of the kids in another school, with continuing budget cuts. Another concern is that we're going to pass this giant debt on to these kids, and then we're not going to educate them so they know what to do with it. I mean, it's a double whammy. I love teaching. I loved writing about it. I think the book is good for, you know, new teachers, somebody thinking about becoming a teacher, or second career, people thinking about teaching as a second career, because when you're crying over a blown lesson, you'll know you're not the only one. It's not a job, teaching. It's a calling. What a teacher does it for are those moments when they make that little difference, which in the long run could be a big difference. When I was leaving Northeast, I was in a hurry. I was getting out of there, and the teacher gave me a box, a present, and I didn't have time to look at it. I put it in my bag, and I looked at it on the train, and it was a plaque. And on the plaque was a story that was etched about this storm, that big storm roils the sea and washes starfish, or thousands of starfish, out onto the beach. The clouds break, the sun comes out, starts to bake the starfish. A guy walks around, comes in, sees all the starfish, doesn't know what to do, so he starts picking them up, throwing them in the water one by one. His friend comes along and says, what are you doing? There's so many of them. You're not going to make that much of a difference. The guy bends down, picks another one up, throws it in the water, and says, made a difference to that one. And that's really what it is. And I don't know if I got my kids in the water, but I think I got them a little close to, I'm hoping that I got them close to the shore. And this is how I know. So I was sitting in my classroom towards the end of the year. I was grading papers, and a kid walked in, and it was a kid who had given me a hard time. And he says, "Hey, Mr. Danza, I quoted you today." I said, "You quoted me?" I said, "What'd you say?" He says, "I told my friend, make the best of a bad situation." Thank you very much, folks. Thanks, folks.
All right. So in your book, you describe it as sort of alternating between inspiration and despair at the challenge of this. And I know you learned lots of things about the obstacles the kids were facing in the class. Were you surprised by the kinds of obstacles they were facing?
Well, you know, you think you have an idea. You know, one of the things that you find out is that you really have no connection with them. The way you grew up is very different from the way they're growing up. And the things they see and the messages they get, it's very different. And you know, I'm not kidding you. If kids come to school hungry, it's pretty hard to teach them. You know, it's pretty hard to teach them. And the problem again, and I don't care what we do, if we don't find a way to convince the kids that this time is so different than past years in America, we're competing. You're not only competing with the kid next to you in class, you're competing with the kid in Brazil, the kid in China, the kid in India. And you're going to have skills, and you're going to have to be a critical thinker. Because maybe even when you have that job, some technology will come along and change it, and it won't be here anymore. So we really have to find a way, a message to them. And unfortunately, I'm telling you, you see it all the time with the kids, is that they really see, it's very hard to get them to understand that it's going to take some work, and that education is the thing you end up with, you know, after you forget everything you learn. And so it really comes down to getting them to understand this. And that's all I did every day, was just try to make them, you know, I talk to people all the time, and everybody says the same thing. Yeah, I wish I would have tried harder too. But you see, then we could get away with it. You can't get away with it now.
Speaking of things changing with the generation, so there's a lot of discussion about tailoring education, especially with use of technology. And I'm curious, given your experience, what you saw, what do you think of that?
Well, I think you got to find a way to bring technology into the classroom. I mean, right now, all it is a distraction. Every kid has an electronic device. I spend all day. I mean, like the kids, hey, earbuds, take the earbuds out, put the phone away. Kids, they look at you. They got the thing right here in their pocket. They're texting while they're talking to you, like that. I'm not kidding you. It's unbelievable. You know, it's incredible. So you got to find a way. I think the Khan Academy is something that's really interesting. I think that we have to find a way to incorporate this stuff. You know, what's her name? McGonigal, Jane. Oh my God, about the games. I mean, wouldn't it be something if we could turn, you know, the wasted time that they're wasting and turn that into something? I just think that's probably the next frontier as far as education is concerned.
Yeah. I'm standing here with my hand in my pocket, but I don't want you to think I'm texting while I'm talking to you.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are you doing?
No, I'm not. I'm sending Twitter messages. Here's my last question for you. So boxing, acting, teaching, what's next?
What's next? It's been really unbelievable to write the book. You know, trying to actually sit down and stay on task. You know, there's a book about writing. It's called First You Fix the Refrigerator, because you'll do anything before you'll sit there. Well, what else can I do? Oh, let me fix the refrigerator. You know, the book was really something. I'm going to try and write another book, and I'm trying to get to Broadway. I'm really trying to get to Broadway. So who knows? I don't know what the future brings. I'm connected with the school. I'm staying connected with Northeast High. I just did a fundraiser there because they laid off the school nurse at that. They have to cut, listen to this, they have to cut $2.5 million out of the budget this year, one school. One school. I mean, I just, you know, and I know that there's problems, but I don't think that's the way to solve it. For me, I'm just going to, you know, try to stay connected to this issue.
All right, Tony, thanks so much for your
work.
work. We hope to see you on Broadway.
Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for having me. Thanks, man.